North Dakota is in a mental health crisis, but there is help and there is hope. Welcome to It Matters, a series of conversations aimed at fostering mental well-being in North Dakota, presented by Inspired Woman, where every story lights the way. I'm your host, Marci Narum. Kids are among the most vulnerable people in our society, and it's true no matter where you live. But sadly, many kids are at risk of or are currently experiencing child abuse. But there is hope here in North Dakota, and I'm happy to welcome Paula Condol, Executive Director of the Dakota Children's Advocacy Center. Thanks so much for being here, Paula.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself first.
Well, I've been with the Children's Advocacy Center for 24 years, and so I've had lots of experience, or over the years have seen lots of trends and lots of kids throughout the state, and provided lots of help. I'm also a mother of 2 adult children. So,
all right. Well, tell us about the Dakota Children's Advocacy Center. Do you see abuse in all forms, all cases of abuse?
Yes. So primarily we get referrals for sexually abused kids and physically abused kids, but we definitely see kids who've been severely neglected, kids who've witnessed domestic violence, murders, those types of things. And so kids from all areas of the spectrum. We also see a number of kids who've been trafficked each year or have been experiencing child sexual exposures.
Okay. And so how are they referred to you?
So about 75% of our cases come from referrals from law enforcement or social services. So they receive a report that a child has been abused, and they make a referral for our services to have a forensic interview, advocacy services, counseling, or a medical exam. But the other about 25% are just people, general population, calling up and asking and requesting services.
Okay. And so when they come to you, what happens?
Well, it depends on if they're just seeking mental health services, they would receive some healing services. If they are coming through the door of receiving that forensic interview, we start by taking that child's statement. If there's this allegation of abuse, the child, obviously needs an opportunity to tell their story about what has happened in their life, and we want to make sure that happens in a unbiased, relaxing setting for the child. So, imagine if somebody's been abusing you and you get social services, law enforcement shows up at school, pulls you out of class, everyone's looking at you, everyone's wondering what's going on, they're all whispering and talking about, that's just not a very comfortable situation in already a horrific kind of, story that you have. And so we really want to make that much more personal for the child. We want that to be much more welcoming and just give them an environment where they have the best opportunity to tell their story and to get some help. And so children come to us and we do what we call that forensic interview, where they get to tell their story, and we take their statement. It's recorded and preserved in case we can use it for evidence in a trial. We have ongoing medical exams to make sure that their bodies are okay, and also so they can ask a medical provider questions about their body. Because if somebody's physically abused you or sexually abused you, there might be scars, there might be physical evidence, there just might be things that you're unsure if your body's okay. Then we always have an advocate that's assigned to the family to make sure someone to answer questions, walk through them during this process, provide referral support. And then we do counseling services for both the child and the caregiver, because healing's a long road, and we want to make sure that we can be there along with them during that.
What are some of the trends that you've seen in North Dakota?
Unfortunately, we've seen a huge increase in child abuse happening or being referred to us anyway. We saw a huge uptick during COVID, where our services increased by about 30% during the first year of COVID. And unfortunately, the numbers haven't gone down. Last year, we saw almost 1,100 people through our centers. We have 5 locations throughout the state. And so, unfortunately, we just keep seeing increased numbers. I would say the other trend that we really see a lot of is just online facilitated crimes. So people requesting or demanding that kids give them pictures over the internet, luring them over the internet, and just utilizing that whole internet child pornography, child exploitation images type forum that is just exploding across the world now.
What happens at all of the other locations, and where are they located?
Yeah, so we have a location in Dickinson, North Dakota, and it's a full-time location. We have 2 staff there. They provide the same services we offer here in Bismarck. We have a location in Jamestown that our staff travel to 1 day a week, and they offer the same services we offer here. And then we have 2 outreach sites, one in Watford City and one in Standing Rock, and we offer forensic interviews at those sites.
Okay. What are you doing in the area of prevention?
So that's an area we're trying to expand on because I think all of us would much rather see our jobs shift to less crimes happening and us talking more to kids about and to families about safety and how to increase safety, decrease the likelihood abuse would happen. And so we've been doing a number of things. We do go out to schools or to churches and those types of things and talk to kids about body safety. We have presentations where we'll go out and talk to businesses and adults about signs and symptoms and things to watch for, things that you can do to decrease the likelihood of prevention. But we've also tried to figure out, like, how can we widen our approach and reach more people? And so we've been trying to use more media and technology to do things like online webinars and a virtual training series to reach more people because if you go into a classroom, we can do great things, but we can do great things with like 25 to 30 kids. If you can utilize technology and social media and all kinds of things like that, we can just broaden our reach and really hopefully help more kids across the state.
Mm-hmm. What impact does child abuse have on a child's mental health?
Oh, that's a big question because I think it has so much of an impact. We know that kids who are abused are more likely to have depression, anxiety, obviously PTSD. They're more likely to have self-esteem issues. And unfortunately, they're much more likely to have suicidal thoughts and completed suicides.
Yeah. Tragic.
Yeah.
What are some signs to look for if you suspect that a child may be abused?
Yeah. There's some traditional signs that people talk about, like you're looking for bruises, you're looking for maybe their grades to drop, things like that. Kids often have disruption of like sleep cycles, and so they either all of a sudden can't go to sleep or they wake up in the middle of the night. They might have nightmares and those types of things. But the number one sign that I tell everybody to really watch for is just a change in your child's behavior because almost all the signs of abuse are also signs of other traumas. And so, a kid's family could be going through a divorce or, maybe they just moved really far away and had to change all their friends. You're going to see some of the same symptoms and signs because their body's trying to re-regulate. There's this disruption and they're trying to re-regulate. And so you're looking for things that's a specific change in behavior. So if you have a student who was an A student and all of a sudden they're flunking, that's something that you need to just sit down and say, what's going on? Mm-hmm. And to pay more attention and to just maybe provide more supervision or spend more time around that child. But it could be the opposite as well. We've definitely seen kids who are just average students and they're getting abused and they just think, if I could only do better, if I could be a better kid, a better student, whatever it is, and all of a sudden they're getting straight A's and they're trying to be a perfectionist. Definitely can also be a sign.
If an adult suspects that a child is being abused, is the first call to law enforcement, or do they sometimes call you?
They can call either. Through our system in North Dakota, we typically, we have a reporting system, and so parents can call a 1-800 number and they can report child abuse on the Child Social Services hotline. And then that gets forwarded, and our state law enforcement and social services are required to work together on these cases. And so one will call the other, whoever gets the first report. And then typically in most cases that are sexual abuse or severe physical abuse cases, those are typically those cases that are automatically sent then to children's advocacy centers where they can receive that interview. And so they definitely can, report it any way that is easiest for them. But I will tell you that the number one reason kids don't tell about being abused is because nobody's asked them. And so if you're suspecting abuse, we don't want kids to be interrogated by their parents or sit down and tell me about it. But to just, if you're worried about your child or you're worried about a child, to just sit down and say, are you okay? I'm worried about you. Is something happening that you need help with?
And it's probably likely that a child is afraid. Maybe they've been threatened.
Yeah. When we visit with kids, they have so many emotions. Definitely being fearful is one of them. They're often very confused. They're often angry. There's a lot of emotions going on. And we definitely have cases where they've been threatened to not tell. We have cases where it's just assumed, the way the abuse takes place and the language people use. And just, unfortunately, we know that the number one, with all crimes, but specifically with child abuse, is that the number one offender of children is always somebody that the kid knows and trusts very well. And so if it's somebody that you trust and they've broken that trust, that makes it that much harder to speak up and to say something's wrong.
What ages do you serve?
So we serve all ages typically. 0 to 18, we see kids of all those ages. For forensic interviews, you have to be at least 3 to do an interview because you don't have the verbal skills to do an interview that would hold up in a court process prior to that. Counseling services, we typically do 3 and up, but we definitely do medical exams on infants and children who are under age 3. But we also serve adults, and that's because, one, if you're a caregiver, a parent, and you've just learned that your child's been abused, you're going to be affected by that. You're also going to lose sleep at night. You're also going to have lots of feelings that you don't know how to deal with. And so we do offer services to all our caregivers as well. We also have always had a motto that if we can help, we will. And so sometimes law enforcement will call us and they'll have an 18-year-old that's been trafficked and they think that they would be better served through our system. Or maybe there's a 35-year-old who has a developmental disability and they would just be better served through our system. And so we try not to put parameters on that. If we can help, we want to.
Okay. How often are these cases prosecuted?
Prosecution is a tough cookie because you have to have reasonable doubt. You have to have evidence. And oftentimes in these cases, it's a child's word against an adult's word. And so I would say once a kid has, for those cases where kids disclosed, it's about a fourth of, to 1/6 of cases that actually end up getting prosecuted. I would say because of the forensic interview, a lot of the cases that come through will get plead out because they have such good evidence or they have a good statement. But we definitely go to court on a number of cases.
How big is your staff in Bismarck?
Our staff has grown exponentially. 7 years ago, we had 4 staff, and we have 21 today.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would imagine that the work that happens there is very heavy. So how do you look after the mental health of your staff?
Yeah. So that's super important to me that, if I hire somebody and I bring them on board, I don't want to also harm them by the work that they do, right? And so we started a program about 5-6 years ago called Building Resiliency Together, where we really researched what is helpful to people to keep them resilient in this type of work. There's a saying that says if you walk through water, you're going to get wet. And the same happens if you're going to work in the trauma field. It's going to affect you. But what we can do as an organization is we can give you resources, skills, training. We can give you an umbrella so you can get less wet, right? We can give you a towel to dry off. We can give you support. We can even offer, we have a program that we offer free counseling services through a trauma-specific EAP to our counselor or to our staff so they can have, if they're affected, they can reach out and get free counseling services for themselves.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Why do you do this work?
Oh, this work's been my heart and passion for a long time. I think it's because, like I said, I have 2 children of my own, and I want the world to be a better place for them and their children. But I also I want kids to be seen. It's so important for me that kids are seen and heard and that they feel safe. That they just, even if they're at our space for just an hour, during that time, somebody actually looked at them and saw them as a person. That's super important to me because, kids don't get abused because someone lost their temper or because, that's the way they were raised. When it reaches a level of abuse, it's because someone sees that person as an object. It's not because, they see them as they're somebody that they own, or they can do whatever they want to, or something that turns them on, right? And as a person, to not be seen or valued as a human being, I think that's just one of the worst travesties that can happen. And so during that hour, that 3 hours, whatever they're at the center, that's what I want them to feel.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Paula, is there anything else that you can think of to mention that I haven't asked you?
Oh, that's always a hard question. I would just say that, that we don't do this alone. We can only do the work we do because of the community support that we do. And so we are always in need of, let me say this. Let me add. I think it's important to know that all our services are free of charge to families. And so a family who comes through our services never receives a bill for the medical exam, for our counseling services, for the forensic interviews. And so, that's really important to us in the sense that we know that if they're coming to the center, they already have enormous stressors on them because of what's happened. And so we want to make sure that we're not adding to those stressors, that we're providing support for that. And then I would say that we couldn't do what we do without the community support. And we want people to know that we're there, but we also know that we need the support and help from the community. So if anyone's interested in helping out, they should reach out to us.
Okay. And how can people help? Do you have a wish list or a needs list?
Yeah. So we do actually have a tab on our website that says how you can help. But we do have a wish list. And so in addition to having our services free of charge, we have a free closet of caring that is completely donated by the community. It's all free items and brand new items only. So it's clothing, hygiene products, shoes, school supplies, even like toys and games for kids who come through the center. So we are always seeking donations of those types of things. While kids are at the center, we try to always have like snacks and water, juice for them because sometimes they may be there for a long time. And then, of course, we do accept monetary donations as well and volunteers.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to be visiting with your Director of Mental Health Services in our next episode, so we'll get even further into the mental health aspect of it. But I really appreciate you being here to talk about what you do at the Dakota Advocacy Center.
Thank you.
For more information about the Dakota Children's Advocacy Center, you can call 323-5626, send an email to info@dakotacac.org, or visit their website, dakotacac.org. That's all for this edition of It Matters. I'm Marci Narum. Join us again next time.